Imagine pouring your heart into a career-defining project, only for your sleazy boss to snatch the reward 2 front-row Super Bowl tickets and claim them as his own. That's what happened to me, Emma Carter. But I didn't get mad. I got smart. What followed was a high-stakes game of corporate revenge, a boardroom showdown, and a downfall that no one saw coming. This is my story. How I turned betrayal into victory and proved that brains beat arrogance every time. Buckle up, it's a wild ride. My name is Emma Carter, and for the better part of 6 months, I poured my soul into a project that wasn't just a job. It was my proving ground. I'd been with Grayson and Holt for 3 years, a mid-tier financial consulting firm with big ambitions and even bigger egos. I was good at my job, damn good, but I was still the kind of employee who got coffee runs dumped on her desk when the senior partners were too busy schmoozing clients. That all changed with the Pinnacle deal. Pinnacle Enterprises was the whale we'd been chasing for years. A multi-million-dollar contract that could catapult Grayson and Holt into the big leagues. I'd been assigned to the team, but it quickly became clear I was the only one willing to put in the work. Late nights bled into early mornings. My apartment became a graveyard of takeout containers. And sleep? That was a luxury I couldn't afford. I built the pitch from scratch, every slide, every projection, every contingency plan. My eyes burned from staring at spreadsheets, my fingers cramped from typing, but I didn't care. This was my shot. When the day of the presentation came, I stood in that sleek Pinnacle boardroom, my voice steady despite the exhaustion clawing at me. I watched their CEO, Daniel Hargrove, lean forward in his chair, his sharp eyes locked on me as I walked them through the numbers. By the end, he was grinning, a rare sight from a man known for his poker face. "Emma," he said, shaking my hand, "you've just made my year." The deal was ours. I'd done it. The high lasted about a week. Then came the Super Bowl tickets. Daniel called me personally a Friday afternoon, my desk phone buzzing as I was packing up. "Emma, I can't thank you enough," he said, his voice warm. "I've got something special for you. 2 front-row tickets to the Super Bowl. They're yours, my way of saying you're a rock star." I laughed, stammered a thank you, and hung up feeling like I'd hit the lottery. Front-row seats? I'd never even been to a game, let alone the Super Bowl. I pictured myself there, cheering with my best friend Sarah, a cold beer in hand. It was a dream. But dreams have a way of slipping through your fingers when you work for someone like Jonathan Reeves. Jonathan was a senior partner at Grayson and Holt, the kind of guy who wore tailored suits and a perpetual smirk, like he knew something you didn't. He'd been my boss for 2 years, and in that time, I'd learned he didn't just climb the corporate ladder. He greased it with other people's sweat. He'd taken credit for my work before, but it was small stuff edits I'd made to a memo, ideas I'd tossed out in meetings. I let it slide. You don't rock the boat when you're still building your career. But those tickets? That was different. Monday morning, I walked into the office expecting to see an envelope on my desk. Nothing. I checked my email. No tracking number, no note from Daniel. By lunch, I was antsy. I swung by Jonathan's office, casual as I could manage. "Hey, Jonathan, did anything come in from Pinnacle? Maybe some mail?" He didn't even look up from his phone. "Oh yeah, those tickets. They're company property, Emma. I'm handling them." His tone was smooth, dismissive, like he was explaining the weather. I stood there, heat creeping up my neck, waiting for him to laugh, to say he was kidding. He didn't. "Business purposes," he added, finally glancing at me. "You understand?" Business purposes. I understood all right. I understood that Jonathan Reeves had just stolen my reward, the one thing I'd earned after months of grinding myself into the ground. I nodded, walked out, and sat at my desk, staring at my monitor until the screen blurred. I could have screamed. I could have marched back in and demanded them. But I didn't. I'd learned something in my years at Grayson and Holt. Rage gets you nowhere. Strategy does. That night, I paced my apartment, replaying his words. Company property. Business purposes. The arrogance of it burned, but I wasn't about to let him win. I needed a plan, one that didn't just get me the tickets, but made him regret ever crossing me. By midnight, I had it. Tuesday morning, I called Daniel Hargrove. I kept it light, professional. Hey Daniel, just checking in about those tickets you mentioned. They never made it to me. Any chance they got lost in the mail? I didn't accuse anyone. I didn't need to. Daniel's silence told me everything. They went to Jonathan, he said, his voice tightening. I addressed them to him with a note saying they were for you. Another pause. He didn't give them to you? No, I said, letting the word hang. No, he didn't. Daniel didn't swear, but I could hear the anger simmering. I'll handle this, Emma. You'll see. I hung up, leaned back in my chair, and smiled for the first time in days. The game was on, and Jonathan had no idea what was coming. The rest of that week was a waiting game. I went through the motions at work meetings, emails, the usual grind, but my mind was elsewhere. Every time Jonathan swaggered past my desk, barking orders or flashing that smug grin, I had to bite my tongue to keep from saying something I'd regret. He thought he'd won. He thought I was too meek, too junior, to push back. That was his first mistake. By Friday, I still hadn't heard from Daniel. I started to wonder if he'd let it go. Maybe he'd decided it wasn't worth the hassle. But then my phone buzzed at 6 p.m., just as I was shutting down my laptop. It was an email from him, short and cryptic. Monday, 9 a.m. boardroom. Be there. My pulse kicked up a notch. Whatever he had planned, it was big. I spent the weekend replaying every move I'd made. Had I been too subtle? Too bold? I dropped the ticket bomb on Daniel without pointing fingers, trusting he'd connect the dots. If he didn't, I'd be stuck watching Jonathan gloat from the sidelines, those Super Bowl tickets long gone. But something in his tone, the edge in that email, told me I wasn't the only one pissed off. Daniel Hargrove didn't strike me as a man who let betrayal slide. Monday morning hit like a freight train. I walked into Grayson and Holt at 8:45, my heels clicking against the polished lobby floor. The office was buzzing louder than usual for a Monday. People whispered in clusters, darting glances toward the boardroom. I kept my head down, my face neutral, but inside, my stomach was a knot of nerves and adrenaline. Whatever was about to happen, I had to play it cool. At 9 a.m. sharp, I stepped into the boardroom. The air was thick, like the moment before a storm breaks. Jonathan was already there, leaning back in his chair at the head of the table, chatting with two other partners like it was just another day. His suit was crisp, his hair gelled to perfection, every inch the corporate king. The rest of the team filtered in, 8 of us total, plus a surprise. Daniel Hargrove, standing by the window with his arms crossed, his jaw tight. He didn't look at me, but I caught the faintest nod as I took my seat. Jonathan kicked things off, all bluster and charm. Morning, everyone. Daniel, great to see you. I assume we're here to debrief the Pinnacle deal. Another win for Grayson and Holt, thanks to my team. He shot me a quick glance, like I was a prop in his victory lap. I smiled back, thin and polite, and said nothing. Daniel didn't waste time. He stepped forward, his voice cutting through the room like a blade. Actually, Jonathan, I'm here about something else. A little mix-up with a thank you gift I sent last week. He pulled an envelope from his jacket pocket and set it on the table. A duplicate shipping label, the kind you get with tracked packages. 2 Super Bowl tickets, front row. I sent them here, addressed to you, with a note saying they were for Emma Carter. She earned them. The room went dead silent. Jonathan's smirk faltered, just for a second, before he recovered. Right, those. They came to the office, so naturally, I assumed they were for company use. I took a client standard business development. You know how it goes, Daniel. Daniel's eyes narrowed. A client, huh? Who? Tom Grayson, Jonathan said, name-dropping one of our founding partners like it was a shield. He's been wanting to strengthen our ties with Pinnacle. Funny, Daniel said, his tone ice-cold. Because I called Tom yesterday. He said he hasn't been to a game in years. Said he didn't even know about the tickets. He slid a phone across the table, Tom's voicemail, time-stamped Sunday night, confirming it. Jonathan's face went pale, but he doubled down. That's a misunderstanding. I meant a potential client. Look, it's not a big deal. Not a big deal? Daniel's voice rose, sharp enough to make the junior associates flinch. You stole a reward meant for Emma, lied about it, and oh, this is the best part, used company funds to cover your little trip. I had my team pull the receipts. $5,000 on flights, hotel, and VIP parking. All billed to Grayson and Holt. The room erupted. The other partners sat up, exchanging looks of shock and fury. I stayed quiet, my hands folded in my lap, watching Jonathan squirm. He tried to laugh it off, but it came out strangled. That's ridiculous. I'd never... You did, Daniel snapped. And you didn't take a client. You took your brother-in-law. I've got photos. Instagram's a hell of a thing, Jonathan. You should tell him to lock his account. That was the kill shot. The partners were on their feet now, demanding answers. Jonathan stammered, his hands flailing as he tried to spin a story, something about miscommunication, about how he'd reimbursed the firm. But the damage was done. Daniel turned to me, his voice softening. Emma, I'm sorry you got caught in this. Those tickets were yours. I'll make it right. I nodded, keeping my cool even as my heart pounded. Thank you, Daniel. I appreciate it. The meeting spiraled from there. The partners hauled Jonathan into a side office, their shouts muffled through the glass. By noon, word spread. He was out. Fired on the spot, escorted from the building with a cardboard box and a security guard trailing him. I watched from my desk as he slunk past, his tie loose, his face a mask of humiliated rage. He didn't look at me. He didn't dare. That afternoon, Daniel called again. Emma, I meant what I said. Pinnacle's got a spot for you, senior analyst. Double your current salary. No tickets this time, just a job where you'll be valued. What do you say? I didn't hesitate. I say yes. The next few days were a whirlwind. After Jonathan's exit, Grayson and Holt felt like a ship without a captain. Everyone scrambling to distance themselves from the mess he'd left behind. The partners called an emergency meeting to reassure the team, but it was mostly damage control. They promoted me to project lead on the spot, a consolation prize dressed up as a reward. I thanked them, smiled, and started packing my desk the same afternoon. Pinnacle's offer was in my inbox, signed and official. Senior analyst, a corner office, and a salary that made my old paycheck look like pocket change. I wasn't about to let guilt or loyalty keep me in a sinking ship. My last day at Grayson and Holt was anticlimactic. No farewell party, no speeches. Just a quiet exit with a box of pens and a half-dead plant I'd nursed for years. The junior associates whispered as I walked out, their eyes wide with a mix of awe and envy. I'd become the office legend overnight, the girl who'd taken down Jonathan Reeves without raising her voice. It felt good, but I wasn't done yet. Pinnacle welcomed me with open arms. My first day, Daniel met me in the lobby himself, a grin splitting his face. Emma Carter, the woman of the hour, he said, clapping me on the shoulder. Let's get you settled. My office overlooked the city skyline, floor-to-ceiling windows framing a view I'd only dreamed of. The work was challenging bigger accounts, sharper deadlines, but it was mine. No one hovered over my shoulder. No one stole my ideas. For the first time in years, I felt like I was exactly where I belonged. Meanwhile, Jonathan wasn't going quietly. Word trickled back through the grapevine. He'd hired a lawyer, some slick ambulance chaser type, and was threatening to sue Grayson and Holt for wrongful termination. He claimed the tickets were a gray area, that the trip was a legitimate expense, that he'd been scapegoated to protect the firm's reputation. It was laughable, but I wasn't surprised. Jonathan didn't know how to lose gracefully. He'd claw at anything to save face. I got the full story from Sarah over drinks a month later. She'd stayed in touch with a friend at Grayson and Holt, and the details were too good not to share. His lawyer filed the suit last week, she said, swirling her martini. But get this, Daniel sent over the Instagram pics, the receipts, even a sworn statement from Tom Grayson. The judge tossed it out in 10 minutes. Jonathan's done, Em, like finished. I laughed, the tension I'd carried for months finally loosening. He really thought he could spin that? He's delusional, Sarah said, raising her glass. To you, babe, the queen of corporate revenge. To integrity, I corrected, clinking my beer against her drink. And maybe a little revenge. The Super Bowl came and went without me. Daniel sent a fresh pair of tickets, but I gave them to Sarah and her boyfriend. I'd never been big on football anyway, and the real win wasn't the seats. It was walking away from Jonathan's wreckage with my head high, my career soaring, and the knowledge that I'd outplayed him at his own game. He'd underestimated me, and that was his fatal mistake. A year later, I heard he'd moved out of state, peddling some half-baked consulting gig to small businesses. His LinkedIn was a ghost town, no endorsements, no connections from the old days. Grayson and Holt limped along, but the Pinnacle deal had been their peak. They never recovered the shine. Jonathan's scandal dulled. Me? I was thriving. Pinnacle gave me a team of my own, and we landed 3 major clients in my first 6 months. Daniel called me his secret weapon, but I didn't feel secret anymore. I'd earned my place in the spotlight. Looking back, I don't hate Jonathan. He was a bully, sure, but he taught me something valuable. Power isn't about titles or corner offices. It's about knowing when to fight and when to wait, when to speak and when to let someone else dig their own grave. I'd spent months building that Pinnacle pitch, sacrificing sleep and sanity, and he thought he could snatch the reward with a smirk and a lie. He didn't see me coming, not until it was too late. Sometimes I wonder what he'd say if we crossed paths again. Maybe he'd blame me, call me a backstabber. Maybe he'd beg for a job. Either way, it wouldn't matter. I'd already won. Not just the promotion, not just the new gig, but the quiet satisfaction of proving that integrity beats arrogance every time. Jonathan wanted to play the game. I just played it better.